Hey everyone, Black Berea's back.
Wow.
It's been nearly a year since we've done an episode.
Oh, that's a long sleep.
But yeah, we're back. New season. We're back. How do you guys feel about being back? I don't think many people thought. I didn't think we were personally going to come back with this Black Berea podcast, but here we are.
You didn't think we were going to come back?
That's crazy.
We're back in the DB studio.
No, we were cooking.
Well, why did it take so long? We didn't even introduce ourselves. This is how sloppy we are with this podcast.
No, we were cooking. I think it was always our intention to take a step back, reflect, never rush back in, trying to provide a quality service. And I think with Femi now in the team.
Who's Femi?
Yes, who is Femi? With Femi in the team, I think we have a quality recruit, addition.
Number one draft pick.
Femi, maybe.
So I think we know if you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard Femi. He's been in a couple episodes, but now he's actually part of the podcast. So that's good. I'm excited about that.
No, big time. So
Femi, how are you? Let's grill Femi in like 30 seconds. Femi, tell us something interesting about yourself.
Something interesting.
Those are those awkward work questions. Those social questions.
I can't lie. You put me on the spot. Something interesting. Okay, this is my go-to.
Okay.
I'm actually not fully Nigerian. Most people assume.
Swear down.
Yeah, most people assume I'm fully Nigerian.
Wow.
I know, right? So, quick story. Long story short, my dad is half Nigerian, half Jamaican. His mum is Jamaican. His dad is Nigerian. They met in England, and then my granddad took my grandma to Nigeria. My grandma lived in Nigeria for close to 20 years.
A Jamaican in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I went to Nigeria over Christmas, we went by the hospital she was working at when she was in Nigeria. So she was a nurse. She was a nurse. She's still alive. She was a nurse, and she's Jamaican. So my dad is half Nigerian, half Jamaican. So that would make me a quarter Jamaican.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
And you recently went to Jamaica, right? How was that?
I haven't been to Jamaica.
You haven't been to Jamaica. You need to go to Jamaica.
My people are missing me. They've been calling me still. Do
you listen to like reggae, dance? No.
Olympic time. When it's Olympics, I'm Jamaican.
What?
That's the only time.
Okay, I've got a question. This is a good question for like a good opening question. You know Mastermind, the quiz show on BBC?
I thought that was a Jamaican artist. I thought you were testing me.
You know what? I said he was a good recruit. you know Mastermind, They have the first round is specialist knowledge.
Okay, cool.
What would your specialist subject be if you went on Mastermind?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
That's a good question, I thought about this before because I like quiz shows.
Yeah.
LeBron James could be up there. LeBron James would be up there. So anything about LeBron James, I'm a super LeBron fan. Or something Man United related. Clearly I'm a sports person. So something Man United related or like LeBron or like NBA related. Something like that. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Welcome, Femi, to the team.
Yeah, Thank you.
Ejim, Israel, how have you guys been?
I've been okay.
Yeah.
I've been good. Long year. It has been literally been a year since we podded. It's been
Cost
a
of
long
living
year.
crisis. How's cost of living crisis?
Cost of living, inflation.
10%.
Lost the Queen. Lots happened.
My days, it has. We did lose the
Yeah,
Queen.
lots happened.
Busy,
A lot's happened. You know what? In all things, we give thanks. I think, even though a lot's happened to the nation, and I think just individually, everyone's gone through a lot last year, especially like economically. Gosh. Thank God we're still here, we're still smiling. Obviously, that's in the UK, though. Israel, in the States, how's it been for you in the last year?
Yeah, same. It's been a long year. A lot's happened. Finally finishing up seminary. Feels like it was never going to actually end. But I got 2 more classes, a Greek class on Hebrews and a Hebrew class on Deuteronomy. And assuming I can finish those, I'll graduate in June. So
Come on.
it's kind of mad to actually be at the tail end of it. Got a baby on the way as well.
No, congrats.
August 2023. So that's exciting, and then a big move as well. Lord willing, we'll be moving back to London too. So
Come on.
it's kind of like 3.
A lot's happening.
Yeah, 3 massive changes, sort of all at once. The next day will probably be a blur, for real. But
yeah.
So excited for it. But it's been a lot of change very rapidly.
It's gonna be a blur, especially that Hebrews in what's it? Deuteronomy in Deuteronomy in Hebrews. That's gonna be something.
I didn't even know where to start with that.
What
But
is
wow,
that
that's
about?
fantastic. So you finished your seminary.
Yeah,
How long was
yeah.
seminary? 3 years, 4 years?
4,
4 years. Wow.
2019. Yeah.
That went quickly, obviously
Yeah,
COVID, and then coming back to London, and then becoming a father as well. That's a lot happening.
Oh, that's mad. So you literally the whole like UK election cycle. You literally left during election year. You're coming back. No, you're coming back this year. Election next year. But almost like that's like the period you're away.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so much. Yeah. So last time you were here,
Yeah.
we've had like I don't know, 3 prime ministers,
3 different
or
prime
whatever.
ministers. Yeah.
Gosh, life.
Was it 2019 that Boris just won his
Yeah.
super majority, right?
I don't even
Where he
remember.
thought he was going to be there for like the next decade.
Yeah, so much has changed.
Meanwhile, my guys in court now doing.
Meanwhile,
Yo, I really respect Boris. Like, I don't respect him, but the fact that he can be so like wrong and strong consistently,
Yeah.
there's something I respect about it. There's something I respect about it. Like,
He's somewhat audacious.
yeah, audacious is the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word. about
Very
Boris.
bold character. That's hilarious.
yeah, I do think like one thing even in the past year, it's just how like there's a demand from society for like I guess decency and transparency from politicians, and I think maybe that's been brought up because we've had maybe the lesser end of the quality in terms of politicians, and that's interesting to see a world that is obviously worldly seeking like sort of like good virtues in politicians. It's been interesting to watch and holding people to account. But I think there's been a lot of that in the past year, in different degrees.
Yeah.
Do you think that's at all linked to just like cancel culture in general though? Like, are people? Is that a result of like how we just treat people in general now with like cancel culture? Just like, oh, let's look for the first mistake anyone's gonna do, and that's just entered like the political sphere, I guess, as well. Or do you think people are just more virtuous or looking for more virtue? I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's a good question. 'Cause I'm trying to think of what is the origin of cancel culture as well. I think I don't know. I think some would say it's the awareness of the woke culture, right and wrong, and then being able to have the social kind of reach to hold people account. So before, if someone in the political sphere or whoever it was, even in the entertainment industry, did something wrong, no one had the pull to like hold them to account. Now I could just at someone. If I get enough traction, that
true.
person actually has to respond.
That's true.
But I just don't know how successful is cancel culture as well, because it feels like it might be a season and then that person's back.
J.K. Rowling is still selling books and that.
Yeah.
They can't cancel her.
Yeah, they really can't. And a lot of some of these political figures, they bounce back. Some artists, they might do something, they might say something that's problematic, and then they might take a break. Like even someone like Kanye, for example, of a lot that happened with him and his company, and basically being at the moment shunned. You just think, might quickly go visit a few synagogues, and then he's back there. And it's kind of like how effective is cancel culture, but kind of what is Ejim is saying about, a lot of people wanna know what someone believes and also know who they are as well. Way more than I think we have in past. I think so anyway.
I agree.
Yeah.
Izzy, what do you think?
No, Mary, you didn't do your.
I was gonna say, Mary, how have you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I think it's just cost of living crisis. I think
Yeah, you go to Nigeria.
I did this here today actually.
I was like Nigeria.
Brand new, innit?
Wait, Mary said cost of living, but she's talking about spending how much are you gonna buy your new MacBook for?
That's
and then
a
you got new hair.
necessity. That's a necessity.
Amazing.
I think I'm somewhat shielded because I still live at home with my parents. So I don't know how people who are homeowners or who are renting, like inflation's at 10%. I enter Sainsbury's £10. I leave with 2.5 items. Like it's just ridiculous. Like, it's generally I think of people who are unemployed or who are living paycheck to paycheck, and this is it's insane. And you see, I don't know, gas companies, for example, are still profiting, still making loads of billions of dollars, but here we are kind of struggling. But I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's mad. It is mad. So what is the plan for the season? So Blackberry is back. Why are we back? Like, what are we looking to do?
I don't know why you guys look at me.
I know we're looking at Femi like it's gonna.
Femi, that was the interview question.
Yeah,
but
that was
actually,
slightly.
I'm
We
the new
opted down
recruit.
the interview, didn't we?
I'm a star player. We talk about practice. I'm the
Oh, finished.
we talk about practice. I'm the star player.
Oh, finished.
No, I'm playing. Hard questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, tough questions that Christians get. So we're gonna tackle a few of them.
Yeah. And I think it'll be good. I think even us coming back is because we still think there's a space for discussions, called Black British perspective, but looking at Christian worldview. And one of the things that I don't even know how we came on this topic, but just thinking about tough questions that Christians face every day and being able to kind of discuss, and we may agree, disagree, have different approaches, but at least we can do it on this platform. So I think I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I think what we're going to do with this season, and I'm just going to call this season 5, just because we're going to do season formats now because it's just easier that way. But I don't know what season we'll be on. So let's just go for season 5.
Okay. Was the last one definitely season 4?
Probably not. But we never did season, so I think after season 2 we gave up. So this is going to be season 5, and this season is going to be primarily on tough questions, hard questions that Christians face. So I've got a few here. Like, do you think how could a loving God allow so much suffering? How can you say there's only one true faith? I mean, we'll tackle as many as we can, and of course we'll still have the Ox BB format as well. So kind of introductory question. Do you think Christians are good at tackling hard questions well? Like, what's been your experience of that?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think so. Do I think Christians handle hard questions well? Yeah, I've seen examples of both. I've seen Christians handle tough questions very well, and I've seen maybe not so well. And what do you mean by well? I guess when I was thinking about this, I felt what was the obvious go-to was, I think, a Christ-like example, a Christ-like response to hard questions. So when we see Christ answering what is sort of the hard questions of Scripture, of the law, seeing how he responded, and in many ways, I think we can learn from him and how we respond today. I think the limitations are that when we can never know truly the person who's asking their heart or their motive. Obviously, Christ does. So we won't always get it right in terms of maybe the exact word to say to the question at hand. But at the very least, I think all responses Christians give need to be laced with grace, compassion, but not a compromisation or compromise word, rather. I don't know if that's even a word, a compromise of the truth. So I think that's the basic in my mind. Before then going into detail as to the subject area and the topic you're covering, grace and truth, I think, is go-to.
I mean, what's been your experience?
It's interesting because when you brought this question up, it made me think about myself and how I've personally dealt with tackling tough questions rather than Christians as a whole. Because I think growing up in the faith, I kind of, if I'm being honest, I strayed away from a lot of the tough questions. I either felt like there weren't answers for it, or I just didn't know the answers. So I kind of just avoided them. And I don't know if other Christians do with some questions. I'm not saying on a whole, but I think when we fail to answer tough questions, sometimes it is just we just don't know how to, and maybe we avoid. But then growing up and maturing and just gaining more understanding and reading and kind of just being sharpened by a lot of different other things, I've learned that there are answers to a lot of the tough questions. And I think the battle then becomes, I guess, similar to what Edwin was saying in terms of how do you answer those questions with grace, love, clear explanation, because sometimes a lot of what we know might be quite muddled up with like super theology or super intellectualism, and trying to break it down to make it simple can be daunting in itself. So there's that element of it, why it can be hard. And I guess the other element is just the controversy of the specific questions. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Like, in terms of, controversial topics, to put it simply, and not wanting to answer those questions and feel like you're going to be ostracized, or you're going to be classed as some kind of phobic or some kind of hate or bigot or something like that. So I think there's two ways why I say Christians can find it hard and where I've found it hard personally. Definitely either not knowing the answers or not knowing how to explain the answers, and then straying away from the controversy that comes with answering certain questions.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of pressure. Well, I found myself to feel a lot of pressure in sometimes being like the Christian spokesperson. So I don't know, you're at a and you're invited to the stage, and all the interviewers are asking questions, and you're just thinking, oh, I'm gonna say the thing that's gonna get people walking away, or I'm gonna say the wrong thing, for me, similar to you, I think I've avoided certain places, and also you just get tired after a while. Like, I love a debate, but I think I have a threshold after a while. So where some people generally love back and forths and conversations, after a while I'm a bit tired. So I think the pressure gets to me, and I think there's been instances in the past where a tough question is being discussed, and I'm just like, ooh, I'm not sure. I had one recently with my brother, actually, and he was asking me about. He was saying to me, "Okay, you're a Christian, but grew up in a Christian household." So it was basically putting it to me like, if you were raised in Qatar, do you think you'd be a Christian? And I'm like, and I was trying to respond to him and say it's grace and God would have saved me, but that's a tough question that I have to answer it in a way that's winsome and profitable for him, and accurate as well. And I think sometimes that pressure of being wrong or saying the wrong things can be overwhelming for me. So that's something that I struggle with. So I think this will even be helpful for me. Israel, you going to say something?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that you all have said. I think the social dynamic is really key there. I was going to talk more about, I think, the difficulty of having conversations nowadays in general. But as you all were chatting, I realized the social tension, the social pressure, the sort of social cost nowadays, I think, adds a flavor to it. The first example that came to my mind was Tim Farron and his time as the leader of the Lib Dems, where there was, I don't know, maybe a month where he was being barraged with questions about theology. And he kept saying, I'm not going to answer it because I wasn't elected to be a theologian. Those are theological questions. You can ask me questions about my policies, questions about the Lib Dem party, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, he had to step down because it was just brutal. And I imagine any Christian who sees that probably sees that and thinks, if that happens to me at work, it's done for. Like, and that just puts a sort of pressure that, if your colleague then asks you the same question, you're immediately thinking, oh, I have to find a way to be truthful, but not say the thing that I know they want to hear so that they can't shut me down. That feels difficult. I don't know how you get through that sort of social tension. There doesn't seem to me to be a clear resolution. It's not like, hey, go to this camp and do a 5-week training, and therefore you will never feel scared again by your workplace. So I'm still processing it, but what you all have said has kind of taken me on an unexpected left turn, mentally trying to think through why Christians have a hard time with difficult questions.
What's the name of is it Kate?
Kate Forbes.
Kate
Forbes,
Forbes. Yeah, just
the
Scottish candidate, leadership candidate.
Have they had that? Like, what happened to that? Sorry, I was following it.
No, I don't think.
I saw some clips of her like answer. I don't know if these are old. They just came up on Instagram or TikTok. I don't think
they've tuned the leader yet, by the way.
No, they haven't done that. No, but did you see when they were asking her and the two other candidates? I guess questions, they were interrogating them, and I've always found that stuff interesting because I like Kate in terms of how she was answering, but it's kind of like what Israel was saying in terms of comparing the other guy, that this is not what I'm here for. I'm not here to answer questions about this, but you can't avoid it. So I guess how is it? Would it be Kate or whatever Christian in that kind of position? Is it her responsibility to answer those questions? Because obviously a lot of the questions put to her are like things about trans rights and stuff like that. As a Christian, is it her duty to give her stance on it, or is it, oh, actually, I'm not here to talk about that? Like, what do you guys think? Like,
it's tough because I think the questions are coming because they think that her view is an extension of her policies.
oh, okay, yeah.
So they're very much okay.
Yeah.
If you become a, I don't know what it's called, the Scottish
First minister.
First minister, your of course your beliefs as a Christian will
It's directly
undoubtedly
linked.
affect
Yeah, I get
your
that.
policies. So I think as much as I think there's some things that she can have like a high level response to of I want to lead with fairness and equity and kindness and transparency. And they're like, okay, everyone says that, but let's go to the nitty gritty. Like, what does this mean for X, Y, Z? And that's why the pressure of politics is really tough in a way that isn't. So, for example, if at my workplace, if you might ask me a question about something, but you're not going to walk away thinking, okay, because Mary believes this, now her work's going to be poor. Or now, I don't know, she's not going to come to work on time. Whereas I think for them, they're thinking, if you're a Christian, I can kind of tell what the policies you're going to push or not push for.
Yeah, so
it just gets a bit sticky, I think.
So are you saying that there is a different expectation of Christians in a political sphere than it would be? So, like, for example, like the example you just gave, Mary, would you feel more free to answer those questions because it doesn't affect your work? Or do you still feel the same pressure of, like, do I have to answer that question? Like, can I?
The thing is, this is just challenging me because when I'm at work, I don't even really talk to these colleagues like that. I'm generally doing my work. Are you coming for drinks? I'm going home. So I don't even know if I'm even in the environments where these questions are brought up. I think there was one recently where I was invited for drinks and I said I'm going to like an Easter work event, and my colleague was like, "Oh, Easter, like Easter," and I think he was able to realize I'm a Christian. So from there, we might have a conversation, but from recent experience, it's really bad. But I'm generally just at work. I'm just chilling. Like, I go home. But I could imagine if I was in those environments where I am getting asked questions about my faith. I don't think. I mean, they may walk away and may think I'm a bigot or may have like negative views of me, and maybe their opinions of me have changed. But I don't think that will affect how I'm perceived with my deliverables. I don't think so. Ejin, what do you think?
I think there's more similarity between politicians and us lay people. I think you're right. I think there's a particular intensity or like or motive behind questions to Kate Forbes or Tim Farron, because they're not like the Pharisees or Sadducees. You're not trying to ask Christ a question for like a positive reason. You're asking trying to get
trying to catch him out.
Trying to catch him.
Yeah.
Christ knew that sometimes and answered accordingly. I think for us, I think it's discernment. So like, there's times where actually it's important to contend for the faith. Like, you know what, whether it's colleague or friend, this one you're asking me, I need to make it quite clear what I believe about the gospel or believe about the gospel in terms of the specific thing you're speaking of. And I feel like if I was to not do that at that moment, I would be doing disservice to the gospel and even like being ashamed of Christ. But there are environments where maybe actually not replying could be an option if it's an environment where it's quite aggressive and hostile, and actually they're not trying to hear your answer. They're just that got you moment. And I think that trying to discern that is that's an exercise in itself. But also, you know what, as Christians, look, I would almost always say always encourage others, and I always try and encourage myself through in praying and looking at examples in scripture, just to always be ready to give that answer, because you know it's better to give an answer in an environment where you're being attacked and they don't want to hear your answer, but you gave an answer as opposed to not giving an answer, and where you should have given an answer, because the truth is the truth is so important to us that I think one way that we show it's important to us is by our willingness to express that truth, because it supersedes, you know, whatever everyone's talking about in a way. And it is courage, and it is like accounting the cost, because it is going to cost. That social dynamic is always what we're referring to, that friendship dynamic. It will sometimes be a cutting edge to those things, and be an offense. But again, even with the truth we deliver, grace and, you know, and empathy and compassion, but truth ultimately. But so I think politicians, talking about that group, I think it's difficult. I still contend. I don't know if we really ever see see ever again in this country or in even just any sort of liberal democracy, evangelical Christian in high office. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's just increasingly super difficult because you can't get away from the intense scrutiny that almost paralyzes and cripples what you're trying to do.
Not even in America. I feel like
yeah, I mean the Christianity in America, I don't know about that Christianity.
Israel can speak more to that. But
The political Christianity in America, Israel, can you clarify what that exactly is? Because even me, I don't know.
The political what now?
The political Christianity. So when I see these presidents prayer breakfast or the reverends, I'm always somewhat
respect Jesse Jackson, please. Respect our Jackson, please.
I'm always a bit like, are these man politicians first or? But anyway, Israel, you know better. Maybe be careful.
No, it is strange. I'll give a brief response, but there's a book that does a better job. Sociologist Grace Davis, I think in Exeter, who has a book called Religious America, Secular Europe. And basically how Europe, which has lots of state churches, like England, Church of England, is more secular than a secular country, America, that's very religious. And that whole prayer breakfast, all of that stuff, I think it's commonly called civil religion. Somehow, historically, religion became part of what it meant to be an American. So patriotism is huge here in ways that I'm actually really uncomfortable with. I don't tell too many of the American folk I hang out with that. But like, even where we live now, if we go on a walk, my wife and I, Rachel, will go on a walk to the park and we'll see flags everywhere, American flags everywhere. And it's like, listen, I haven't forgotten which country I'm in. You don't need to remind me every 2 houses that I'm in the United States. I know where I am. But that patriotism includes religion. So I can't remember who pointed it out, but there's only one explicitly atheist politician in America at the federal level, across Supreme Court, executive office and Congress, House of Representatives and Senators. And that's Bernie Sanders.
I was going to say, it has to be Bernie.
Every single person, everyone else is religious. At least on paper, they claim, Anglican, Catholic, even Muslims, they claim something. And you can't be a politician and be successful in the US without being religious, which is very strange. It's somehow part of what it means to be American is to be religious.
It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
So how do you guys tackle hard questions with your family? So we've kind of spoken about work, we've talked about like the political sphere, but I think with my family, because they know me, I can't get away. So I might ask a question, I might think, you don't believe that because you're shouting at me, or like you're rude, like I know. Like, so how do you guys handle tough questions from family?
It's interesting because I threw both my parents live in Nigeria now, and we went over Christmas, and I actually threw some tough questions back at them just because I don't know, Nigerians, innit? Sometimes it's hard to like, even because I've always wanted to ask them these questions, right? And there's that parent-child relationship that we still have. I love my parents, obviously, but there's still certain conversations that we just don't have. Like there's some conversations I've never had with my parents that, God willing, if I ever become a father, I will definitely have with my children. And I'm not blaming them, I'm not like judging them for it, but there's just that dynamic where it's like you don't even ask those questions. Long story short, I'll make this super short, but I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, which is very different. If you don't know anything about it, I won't go into detail now. But so I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist until I got. I'd probably say until I went to uni, maybe left uni, and then I would probably say I kind of just left in my mind anyway. Even if I physically didn't leave, I left in my mind. Anyway, that's not even the point. But so when I went to Nigeria recently, I actually just challenged like my mum first and then my dad about some of the beliefs that they had, and just asked them like, why did you guys believe this? Or why did you guys do this? Why did you guys do that? And they were way more receptive than I thought they were going to be. But I was like hesitant at first because I didn't want them to think like, oh, like who are you to tell me like blah, 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 blah. But they were so much more receptive to those questions. And my mum, I would say, is still like a Christian. My dad, since he probably won't call himself Seventh-day Adventist anymore, but I don't know what he would call himself at this point. So I would love to have more of those like conversations. But yeah, it's weird just because it's like, how do you, I don't know, maybe you guys find it easier, but I find it hard to approach my parents with those questions. So yeah, that's my experience anyway.
Family don't leave either. You might have a discussion at work, and that's it. You might the next day you might say, "Hey Sam," and then you might smile. You might see them and then when you're getting some tea, but you will see family again.
Yeah, it's true. So
Adrian, how do you manage like tough questions from family? If all friends, it could be friends.
If I've been able to manage it, I don't think I've been able to manage it like. Yeah, in the most ideal way, and and you hit the nail on the head, Mary. It's the scrutiny. It's because you have the conversation, but same with like street evangelism or talking to colleagues. It's sort of that interaction, that transaction, and then you drop the seed and then you go. But with home, with home, have the conversation. Conversation finishes, and then they see you. Do you know what I mean? And they already know the things that make you behave like this, behave like that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they're understanding what you're saying or hearing what you're saying in that whole sort of, that package, that whole context of who you are, not just what you're saying. Sometimes who they know you to be speaks more loudly than what you're even saying.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge. I've had convos with my family, about, we're talking about trial issues, even more recently with like mum, about like, what we think the Bible says about like spiritual gifts, etc. And I think what helps is, I do think age helps. I think as I've gotten older, I do think it's more of like, thanks be to God for the relationship I have with my mum, but it is more like a friendship, not quite peer to peer, but it does feel like a bit peer to peer. And I think mum hears me when I talk to her. Also because like, hopefully I have shown that I do take this faith seriously to a degree. Like I don't just say I'm Christian and I live one way. Hopefully my life has shown that I actually I show some level of devotion to this. So she sort of comes from a position where, okay, David must know something of what he's saying because he lives it. So hopefully that's what she sees. So I think 90% of the work is almost just making sure you're visibly living that peaceable life, Christian life. And I think the conversation is much easier when they're able to match what you're saying to how you're living, and there's that noise of like knowing who you really are. Because in a way you become defensive because you're obviously, you're talking through that noise as well, and you want to overcompensate because, you want them to hear that particularly, not sort of see you. And it can be very challenging in the home. But yeah, I guess, and also you just approach every conversation with prayer for hearts to be softened, you know what I mean? But it's the hardest, as my pastor says, the hardest constituency to speak to is your family.
For sure. Yeah, and it's tough. I think for me, as I've gotten older, similar to you, Ejim, I've realized not every conversation is necessary. You kind of have to pick your battles. And I think before, like when I would speak to my family, I'd always feel the pressure of having to be right and never having and there's times where you listen to them, you listen to some of the points they have, and you say, yep, cool. And there's other times where you can come back at them, you ask some tough questions yourself, and you just hope for more opportunities. So even the example with my brother when he was asking me, like, if you were born in Qatar or another country, do you think you'd be a Muslim or a Christian? And we had a conversation, and then we spoke about something else after, and then you might talk about Christianity again, and you're just praying for those opportunities. Where your witness can match up with your life as well. Is what you're gonna say, son?
Yeah, I think that piece about lifestyle is probably the most crucial part. There was Aristotle, I think, who said, was Aristotle.
I've missed this. It's just his people knowledge.
He's back.
It was Aristotle outlined persuasion along 3 lines: logos, pathos, and ethos.
Ethos, come on.
Logos being ethos is the core part, I think, for persuasion with family. The structure of your argument, or the sort of authorities you appeal to, that doesn't mean anything unless your lifestyle and your actual ethics matches.
Yeah.
And even Paul says it in First Corinthians. I think that one I'm not sure. I have to double check. Where he speaks to those whose spouses are not Christians, and he says, well, if they're not going to leave, try and win them over by your lifestyle. That actually by embodying the Christian faith, you can convince them of the Christian faith. And he doesn't tell them to, do what he does in Acts 17 and make a case based on natural law and argumentation. He says you have to live out the Christian faith if you're going to convince the person that you live with that Christ indeed is Lord. So but that's also the hardest thing, I think. It's easy to come up with a strong argument logically, but to actually be consistent with your beliefs is probably the hardest type of apologetics to do. And I think that's probably why it feels so difficult, because the family can call it out straight away. You're talking about justice and how Christianity is the only worldview that really explains justice well, and then your brother says, "Well, you ain't never done nothing for justice." So clearly you're saying this, but you don't believe any of it. You don't do none of it. So why should I take it as my faith to now live out? Yeah.
And I think black homes, because obviously talking predominantly about black homes where we're from, I think just because we now know small theology, we still need to respect the fact that there are parents. Sometimes for me, for some weird deluded reason, you sort of think now you know the theology, the scale is somewhat balanced in terms of, do you know what I mean?
Don't talk to me like that, Mum.
Mum, do you know what I know? Like,
I know Luther.
Do you know what I mean? And
I know Papa.
I said I know Luther.
Mum says, "Mum, who are you reading?" Which one are we? And that's arrogance, and that puffs, and that is not why we are trying to learn more of the scriptures. It's not to make mum, dad feel less and you feel like you've arrived. No, that isn't it. And I think that's also a gospel blocker. Yeah. So even being humble in what you know communicates. I think it's First Peter. So you were mentioning Israel. It says something similar in First Peter about the wives. The wives living with husbands if husbands are behaving a bit funny. But I agree. I think, I guess in general, like speaking about the rest of the season, I think there can easily be like a pride, an arrogance, that's a better word, an arrogance in feeling like you know all the answers to these hard questions. And that can come out in however you answer them, how you approach them. I don't think that should be the goal of us. And sometimes, even if it isn't just arrogance, it's like, oh, if I know all the answers to all these hard questions, then I'm going to be able to win all these people over. And if I'm able to explain it the best way, that means I'm going to be able to win this person over. And actually, that's not what does the saving either. So I think trying to remove that, yes, you do want to be able to answer these questions and contend for the faith and all that stuff. But at the same time, remove, ego out of it, remove our own knowledge out of it, and just know that, it's God working through us. And it's only God that does the saving anyway. So and I think if you have that attitude, a lot of the time you don't necessarily need to worry about where the intentions of the questions are coming from. Even though it's helpful sometimes to know, because sometimes people are just trying to trap you and make you look a certain way. So it's helpful, but if you have that in mind that actually it's not me, then it might be a bit easier.
Really? No, I think that's a good place to stop actually. So that was a good introduction. So I think the aim of the season is that, we're going to tackle some hard questions. We'll go into some specific questions. We'll be using actually Confronting Christianity by Rebecca. I want to make sure I quote this girl accurately. McLaughlin. Apologies if I said your name wrong. But some of the questions we'll pick out. So aren't we better off without religion? Doesn't religion hinder morality? Doesn't religion cause violence? Isn't Christianity homophobic? We'll pick a few. We'll tackle it. If you guys want us to tackle some more hard questions, send it to us, please. But that was the first episode back. Season 5.
How long was that? How many minutes?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When do I get my payment? Do I invoice?
Payment?
Who am I invoicing? Who am I invoicing? I heard I was on
30 minutes. This is a new BB. New BB. 30 minutes.
I like how we just talked over the fact that
Favorite us, Spotify. Femi. Can we turn Femi's mic down? Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, where you get your podcast from. Hello.
Oh, that's it, innit?
Yeah,
That's it,
guys,
man.
love it, guys. Well done.